So, welcome to this episode of The Quantum Time Traveler. I'm your host, Emma Bushell, and we have the most amazing guest expert speaker, who is David D'Ambrosio. Have I got that
You
right?
said it correctly. Yeah, you got it right. You got it
Um,
right.
cool. Who is a renowned human behavior specialist. And he joins us actually on vacation. So, thank you so much for your time. And he's coming with such a wealth of knowledge, such a traveler and pure spirit. And he's going to enlighten us on his journey of finding his own strength and wisdom and resilience through his own traveling. He's nomadic of nature. And welcome, welcome, David.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Been looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, so the quantum time traveler, this is very apt for you because nomadic in nature and traveling, well, pretty much all continents apart from Antarctica, is that right?
Yep.
So
Apart from the
what
Antarctic, I've been everywhere.
so what actually spurred you on to do such a massive traveling at such a young age?
Ah, well, I come from a I come from a relatively small town, and where I'm from, when I was growing up, it's like when you leave school, you get to like 18, you've got a few choices to make. You either go into the public service, so work for the government. There's a lot of public servants where my town is. So you work for the government, you go to university, or you get a trade. Now, those are your three options, and then you marry the girlfriend that you're currently with in a few years, and then you get the mortgage and the house, and it's just like a conveyor belt that
Yeah.
seems to take place over there. And look, when everyone else was doing all of that, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I thought I wanted to be an astronaut and everything like that. I just not really, but I was just like I didn't know what I wanted. But I knew I didn't want that.
Yeah.
And so I thought in my head, I'm like going, there's more to life than this fishbowl experience in Canberra. So all right, I packed up my bucket. And my background's Italian as well. So
Okay.
like all of my family is Italian. I was a second generation of Australian, my mother being the first. And so I hadn't met any of my family either. So I didn't feel like I knew who I really was.
Okay.
So I packed up my bucket, got a one-way ticket and went to Europe with nothing. I had never been there before, never caught a train before in my life, never done, seen any of these things before. I went with my friends for about 2 weeks, then they went home, and then that was it. I was just kind of like, well, I guess I'm in London now. This is pre-iPhone, by the way. This is
Yeah,
also
yeah,
sharing,
yeah.
revealing my age as well, but there was no iPhones back
Yeah.
then either. So yeah, that was it. Just make it work. Had my Nokia 3210 and
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah, yeah,
Trying to make it
yeah.
work. But yeah, so and I had in my head as well, it was kind of like no matter what happens, I don't want to be relying on anybody and I don't want anyone to think that I'm not having the best time of my life. If it doesn't, if I'm having troubles, I will work it out. And so, yeah, I slept on the street, ran out of money pretty quick, is sleeping on a bus shelter.
Yeah.
Um, there's a homeless, there's a dude that was given, there was a guy who owned the Nero Cafe near Oxford Circus who was giving out his sandwiches at the end of the day to all the homeless people. And some of the bums told me where to where to go. So went over there, and I remember it was like relish and cheese was always what they gave me. So I was like, the one that no one else wants. So I had that, and I stole food for the first time as well, just to kind of make ends meet and everything. And until I got a job, which I lied to get. So yeah, no, it set me off. It was very informative. It set me off on a on adventure,
Yeah,
but it helped
amazing.
me grow. But I loved it. I loved it.
And
It was
how
one of
how
the
long, sorry, how long did you travel for?
well, that stint. I mean, I've kind of been running around ever since. That's yeah, I kind of haven't stopped. So that was. as soon as I turned 21, I'm 40 now. And yeah, I left, and that stint was for 4 years. Came back to
Okay.
Australia. Had a significant moment that grounded me there for a little while, and then it was just move around Australia, and then it was US, South Africa, um, South America, and until yeah, and last year it was just kind of just bouncing around all over the place, all over the world. So yeah,
Amazing.
and
So what
here
warranted
we
you
are
then
now.
to go into the area that you're expert now? What actually drove you into that, the human psyche and behavior of people in such passion, with such
Uh,
passion? Because I feel that from you. You're very passionate about that, and what you're doing. We'll go on to that in a minute about what you're you've
yeah.
created with your brother. But
Well, there's
what's
a
your
few
passion
things.
behind all this? What's driven you here?
Yeah. Well, there's a few things. I one of five kids. I didn't really feel like I stood out in my family. And I didn't really. I was very observant, and I had I had existential questions from when I was a little kid in primary school. I was thinking, so what do I do? What am I meant to do with life? What does life mean? And all this kind of stuff. And I want to understand people. I felt like I was very, there was just something that was kind of disconnected. I was very observant of people, but I wanted to understand them so that I could connect. And that had been playing in the back of my mind, just shoot, for as long as I can remember, really. And once I started, once I took that initial step to go traveling, it wasn't enough for me to go visit a place. I wanted to stay in a place. So when I moved to like Spain, I didn't want to just go, you know, do a Kentucky 3 days here, 3 days there. I wanted to stay
Yeah,
in the place, get to know the place, understand the people, understand the culture. And that's what I love doing, immersing myself. So I enjoyed these immersive experiences because I want to understand culture. And it grew from there because I became fascinated with how different people view the world
yeah,
in such close proximity. I remember going to see my auntie and my uncle in Italy. They're in a place called Varese. And first time of meeting these people. So loving, so warm, everything. But they're right on the Swiss border. You could walk to the Swiss border from their place. And I remember going and doing that walk. And you go there, and the architecture just changes all of a sudden, and the way that everyone behaves all just changes all of a sudden. And there's just an invisible line right there. But
yeah,
20 minutes in this direction, you go to sleep at a certain time and things stay open
yeah,
a certain
yeah,
time.
yeah.
20
I
minutes
get
on
it.
that, just over there, everything's completely different, different mindset. So I became fascinated with people and wanted to understand them. And that transferred into my brother and our eldest brother, had issues with mental health and addiction and heavy drug addiction. And I always wanted to try and help him. I wanted to understand him and I wanted to help him. And so I went, and I also wanted to help myself. And so I'd learn all these different modalities. It motivated me to learn all these different modalities about the mind and about transformation. I always was very attracted to people that were seemingly creating transformations in others. And I wanted to do that for my brother and I wanted to do that for myself. And yeah, that led me down a completely different path of education,
Yeah,
um, into all these different experiences, working with the homeless, socially disconnected,
yeah,
and mentally disabled, like the mentally disabled inmates of prisons and all this kind of stuff, to try and understand the mind and understand what's the difference that makes somebody shift from the inside out. So it was a journey that started with exploration of the world and culture, and then went into healing, wanting to understand healing for myself and my brother, and then it just grew from there. It's turned into a bit of an obsession
yeah,
until I've gotten to the point now where I've been chasing down different mentors to study under and to learn from in the
yeah, and
space.
a
And
whole wealth of very renowned mentors as well. I just want to go back to a
yeah,
minute, the fundamentals of this, because I think the fundamental that I feel from what you're saying is connection. It's
Yeah,
connection of people, wherever you are, or whatever circumstance you're in, and understanding where, not just where you're placed in it or where I'm placed in who are we, but it's also the connection of others within that structure, that
yeah,
makes up humanity, that makes up the bigger picture, right? And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things it was like one thing that my brother really taught me through his addiction was the way that people viewed his addiction. So he was very disconnected from a
yeah,
lot of us, but he was using um, the drugs, like the heroin and all these kinds of things, as his point of connection with other people.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And so what he really taught me was to really get beyond a lot of stigmas and a lot of different things, like the way that we view these sorts of things, and just to try and understand what is it that helps somebody heal and to remove the moral indignation from a lot of stuff. And so it was a great lesson for me. And it just led me to really be curious about how do you really get through to a person? How do you get a person to really connect? How do you get a person to shift their circumstance, but not demonize whatever vehicle they're using? And there's just so much stuff out there that is just disempowering to people. How do people become empowered? But yeah, it really it came down to a lot about seeking connection and understanding what that meant, um, understanding the roadblocks between it, and then that my brother stimulated me for connection and healing to understand. Like I just really want to understand that.
amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
Um, and the fact that your other brother and yourself um
Mhm.
have gone on now to do profound work in Peru, that you're going to in
No,
April.
Brazil,
Sorry,
in Brazil.
in
Yeah,
Brazil. Sorry.
yeah, that's
And
okay.
you're going in April for a May immersion, is that right? And again later, possibly in
Yeah, so
October.
yeah, so we have an immersion in first week of May. The program actually starts in April, but because we work with people for a month before they arrive in Brazil, and we have a 7 day immersion in Brazil, and then we work with people when they get home. So we do one in the first week of May, and we've got one in October as well.
Fabulous. And then, so I just want to touch on that in a minute, but I'm just going to go back to the your thought leadership on human behavior, because I know you've sat with so many mentors and thought
Mhm.
leaders and all of the things before we go into your amazing retreat that's happening in May. That sounds phenomenal. And it is a retreat that isn't just like a 2 week situation. It runs from 6 weeks to 9 months,
Yeah,
depending on what
yeah, it
level you want to
depends.
go into and in all the rest of it. However, I just want to
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about the way you lead your thoughts on your work in particular, because you work in a specific way that only David will work and understands, separate to your brother at the moment. So I'm just concentrating on yourself. Um,
Yep.
and I just really want to understand that from you in the way that
Mhm.
you see things with human behavior and the way you work and your unique way of doing it.
Well, look, my ideas have been shaped and formed by multiple different mentors and things like that, from in the personal development space, um, into the healing space, and just understanding different healing modalities, and also the fact that I've been exposed to so many of these things from a young age from my mother as
Yeah.
well, who
Okay.
is a big influence as well. Because we grew up with Eastern and Western healing modalities. I've been having acupuncture since I was a toddler. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And acupuncture kinesiology, but also going to the GP. You know what I mean? Like we open to everything. Just everything has its place whenever it's used. So I grew up with that. Um, but the way that I see human behavior and everything, I see nothing missing out of, or out of place. It's just whether or not you're aware of the dynamic that you're caught in. So if you go into a situation that you've labeled all good or something that's labeled all bad, these are just misperceptions because I come from a perspective that everything is inherently balanced and that the morality construct that we superimpose onto events is completely dictated by the individual because what's right in one part of the world is what is wrong in another part of the world. You've got completely different ways of perceiving reality, you know what I mean? And we're going to react based on that. So I come from a place of neutrality when I'm listening to people talk and they're telling me their story about what it is that they've lived through. And yeah, so I'm just looking for objectively what took place. So if you tell me that if you've got a emotional charge on somebody and say that they've criticized you, okay, and I hate that dude. He comes in here and he just fucking all I did was open my mouth and he just shot me down. Great. Now you say that to somebody else and they might pathologize the other guy and go, oh, well, he's just an asshole, blah, blah, blah. And then they're going to reinforce your story. I don't. I look at, okay, what did you say to instigate that reaction within them? Because they don't just magically come out with it.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing that's instigated that? Now, that's not blaming you. It's understanding the interaction in human behavior. What is the
Mm.
dynamic that you're in with this individual? Did you say something to? Did you project down? Did you talk down on them and lift yourself up and start telling them what they should do and shouldn't do and everything like that? And did they have a reaction to that of you telling them what they're meant to be doing? Because when you don't, no one just criticizes you. You're attracted through some behavior. Do you challenge the value structure? Someone challenges my value structure, I'm probably going to become critical. Tell them to back off.
Yeah.
But these are things that are natural dynamics in human behavior. But we say one thing's good and the other thing's bad.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't come from a perspective when I'm working with a client of good and bad. I come from a perspective of everything's balanced. Your perception that you're superimposing onto an event is making it unbalanced in your mind,
Yeah.
and that is having an effect on you emotionally and physiologically.
Yeah.
If you don't like those symptoms that you're getting, emotional and physical, then we need to neutralize those charges.
Yeah.
And so that's the way that I view human behavior. Nothing's out of place. Now, I get my buttons pushed. I'm a human being. I get my buttons pushed. So I still get triggered myself. I just know what to do with it, and I don't walk around with a fear of getting fired up. I just know I have a process that I go through and that I practice. I have people that I employ to look at my own stuff to keep me accountable,
Yeah.
and that's it. It keeps you good. But at the same time, in every situation that you think is all good, there are drawbacks to that. And any situation that you think is all bad, there are benefits to it. And to the degree that we infatuate with the good or we resent the bad, we are only partially conscious of what's actually going on in
Yeah.
your reality. Yeah, so I try to help people to transcend their biases, to make them fully conscious of these specific, like significant emotional events. That's the kind of perspective that I bring to human behavior. But a lot of a lot of it's not popular. I'm informed from one of my teachers, Dr. John DeMartini. He's one of my biggest mentors, someone I still study with now, and I'm still learn from now every day. And that's really informed a lot of where I'm at right now as well. So a lot of what I say will have will have resonance to him as well.
Yeah. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, I
No,
have
you're
to
welcome.
touch on we discussed this actually before we went live, recording on a really poignant subject that I want to cover with you, David, in the fact of
Uh-huh.
the immersion that you're building, the momentum with your retreat. And there's such wealth of knowledge and wisdom from so many people that are going to be there facilitating, and also with your brother, which is that's symbiotic to you and your brother because you work in conjunction with each other. I know that your brother has completely different exploration that from high performance professionals, he's a health and lifestyle coach, is that right?
Yes. Yep.
So you're working in synergy with each other, which is beautiful,
Yep.
as a family
Yep.
as well, which is lovely, right?
Mhm.
But I want to touch on the subject of plant medicine because I know you have a lot around this, and I want to bring to light and depth and the dark
Uh-huh.
about plant medicine and how you use it in your retreats.
Well, plant medicine, from our perspective, plant medicine is a tool, and we've created is a container where where we find through our observation and years of experience, we've found the most effective way to get somebody to have the results that last and that stick that they really want from the experience. So you'll go to a lot of places out there in the world, and well, most places really. I haven't seen. I'm not saying that nobody does it the way we do, but I haven't seen it. So you see a lot of places out in the world that will be like, okay, come along, and you just have the drink,
Yeah.
and you'll stay in the place, and you'll have the drink. You have a couple of ceremonies, and that's it. They might tell you to create a WhatsApp group with the people that you drank with, and
Yeah.
off you go.
Yeah.
They'll send you a PDF,
Yeah.
likely send you a PDF before you get there. Maybe have one conversation just to give you some rundown of things in terms of the dieta and stuff like that before you get there. But that's the extent of it. And I found that to be unsatisfactory for myself, so to my brother, because it's like through every experience, like personal development, and I'm going to put this together with personal development. It's like some people create a shift and some people don't. So what's the difference that makes a difference? When I had my first ceremonies, I had I was running a retreat program. My brother and I were invited to run a retreat program for some ex-Israeli special forces people on the island of Florianopolis. So we were already doing coaching work with people. Then we got introduced to the medicine, and we used all the stuff that came up. Now, the other people that we sat with didn't.
Yeah.
We had very profound shifts. They didn't. So what was the difference? We all had the same drink. We all had the same experience. It's not the experience that created the change. It's what we brought to the experience that created the change. Because otherwise, all you'd need to do is just have the drink. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it does. It does for
Yeah.
me.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, I get
So
it.
what I found, yeah. So what I found is that there are people that can have this experience and they can really shut down, and it can rock them, and they can go to complete opposite and have this aversion and go, that was the worst fucking thing that I ever had, and feel traumatized by the experience. And like going, okay, so how do you mitigate the risks of this? So that's why Paul and I we go, okay, well, what did we have that they didn't initially? And we're like, well, we had done a bit of we had already done the self-reflection. We had very deep intentions for the medicine. There's a lot of people out there that don't have intention when they get there.
Yeah.
You would not take a headache tablet. You wouldn't take a Tylenol or a Panadol or an ibuprofen without an intention.
Yeah.
I have a headache. My intention is to alleviate the headache.
Yeah.
But people approach the medicine experience and think that it's somewhat spiritual to not to be like going, I'm just going to surrender and just have no intention. Just show me what I need to see. I go, okay. You get, if you can turn up that like that and think that that's really elevated of you, but it's I know
Yeah.
from my perspective, it's just it's a lack of awareness into what it is that you really want to go get from that experience. So the way Paul and I can keep people accountable and help guide them is we coach them for a month before they get there.
Yeah.
My brother would give you practices. He would tell you about the dieta, specific diet before you get there. Again, we looked at every negative review that we could possibly find on ayahuasca on the internet, and there's a
Yeah.
lot. And
Yeah.
well, I wanted to find out what and read through and find out what were they doing that created that perception. A lot of them were not prepared. Um, with the specific diet. Ayahuasca works on your stomach acid. It changes your stomach acid and it binds to the serotonin uptake receptors inside the brain, gets straight into your bloodstream. But if you've got any medications and things like that that either affect the serotonin receptors in the brain,
Yeah.
like SSRIs,
Yeah.
antidepressants, and such, or any medications that affect your stomach acid, because the monoamino oxidase inhibitor that's in the ayahuasca vine changes your stomach acid so that it doesn't break down the DMT. So anything that affects that is going to give you a pretty strong pain experience. It's going to give you a bumpy ride. So there's a reason why you have a specific diet before you get there. But no, people aren't given this information. So we, and you got to think about it as well. Like I mean, it elevates your heart rate, so you're not meant to have any stimulants, no chili, no oil, um, no red meat. Again, because the amino profile is contraindicated with ayahuasca. Like all these different nuances that a lot of people just aren't exposed to, but they're
Yeah.
not held accountable to that either.
Yeah.
So Paulie guides through the body, and I guide through the mind by going through a history analysis with you before you get there, and we can identify certain patterns through your life and
Yeah.
people and emotional charges that are
Yeah.
really significant to you. And we get to work on them before you get there. You get to work on them without the medicine with me. And the the intention behind that is twofold. One, it's to give you a breakthrough without the medicine, to show you that you do not need medicine to have a breakthrough. And it can be profound. It's profound when you do the work. And we work on and we identify what's the biggest charge.
Yeah.
So if somebody's had like a rape experience or an incest experience or
Yeah.
things of this nature that are really highly charged, that's what I'll work on with you before you get there.
Yeah.
There's two things. We either completely get a breakthrough on that, and then there's no longer any kind of trigger on that, or we've lowered the charge to such a degree that if it comes up in the ceremonial space, when you ingest a drink, you're not going to shut down and freak out and go into some crazy state and become really ungoverned and have a psychological split on that,
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
does happen. These things are
Yeah.
not toys. So yeah, there's a real safety component with that, but also when you're setting intentions, going through your history form, which is guided, you're setting intentions that really mean something to you. So it's like you could say, because plant medicine is a teacher,
Yeah.
or
Absolutely.
a teacher, a doctor, whatever. Yeah, it's an intelligence that you're ingesting. Okay,
Yeah.
now it's like going to the doctor. You don't go to the doctor and say, I've got generalized pain, just fix it. You just go to the doctor and you say, hey, I've got pain in my knee. Okay, now you have to have a level of self-awareness to direct the doctor's attention to your knee.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing in the same way, what we're doing with the history form is direct the doctor, direct the intelligence to the spot. Now, the knee pain might not actually be from the knee. It might be referred, it might actually be pain in the toe that's giving you referred pain in the knee. So this is when you say you surrender to how the package comes.
Yeah.
But if you do that reflection and you say, okay, I can see that there's all these different fears in my life. Great, teach me about my fear. And you're open to fear being shown to you in any which way, but fear means something to you, and you understand what it means to you. Or you
Yeah.
teach me about anger, teach me about my anger,
Yeah.
because you've got all these different angers that are going through. Those, but anger to you and anger to me are different things.
Yeah.
So it's like going, when you understand that, you create the context for the experience that you have.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that gives you the context to interpret what comes up.
Yeah.
Without that, without that context, it can just be a bunch of gobbledygook.
Yeah.
But it's the context matters. And when we're integrating, and again, integration means integrating information. It's
Yeah.
integrating parts of the mind. Conscious and unconscious is an integration.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm supporting people while they're away. So it's like we do the pre-work, you establish a relationship and a familiarity with me and my brother. We have a community, and we do classes as well,
Yeah.
teaching about concepts of human behavior and about health,
Yeah.
not just dieta, but also, just different aspects of health,
Yeah.
um, so that people have an understanding and an education. They get to Brazil, they already know what I look like, they know what my brother looks like. There's a familiarity. We've established a relationship and some trust already there. We go into 7 days worth of experiences. That's 4 ayahuasca ceremonies, one day on, one day off. We say we've split. You treat the whole thing as one giant ceremony, but it's split into 4 quarters.
Yeah.
And you go like a little bit by little bit, and you go a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper. The doses it depends. You're developing a relationship with the medicine. So it also removes the pressure of you to get it all in one go
Yeah.
as well. So it's like, okay, things can reveal over the week. We also have like a Tamascala sweat lodge as well that we do
Oh,
there. And we go for, yeah.
really?
And then we go for a walk in nature as well with a very low dose of mushroom, but it's just a homeopathic dose. But it's more about, so it's not meant to be overly psychedelic. It's more about having that low dose and going off into nature and being able. It's eyes open ceremony, but it's more about grounding. And we have hape, which
Okay.
is a tobacco. Yeah, so it's a tobacco mixed with ash from different trees in the Amazon. It's a Brazilian tradition. We're affiliated with two tribes, the Iwanawa and the Huniquin, and they
Yeah.
use hape for grounding, for getting clear on intention. And so in between each ceremony, we'll have a circle. We'll have some shares on hape, and then we'll share.
Yeah.
So we're grounding everything as we go. So we go up, we get the information, we come back down, and we ground.
Yeah.
And the way we treat that 7 day container, it's a cultural experience. It's not just it's not just for self development, but it's a cultural experience. So you eat Brazilian food. I mean, it's all dieta friendly, but from all different regions of Brazil. We've
Yeah.
got everyone that's there is just local people that we employ. This is all they do for their work. This is their
Yeah.
occupation,
Amazing.
is running the space.
Yeah.
Our head facilitator, Ivan, he does not like to be called a shaman because he said he doesn't. He's done all the initiations. He's godfather to Chief Nishika's eldest son in the Yawanawa tribe, who's next in line for to take over. You know what I mean? Like, he's very well respected. He's a liaison between indigenous groups and NGOs and things like that in Brazil. He flies around Europe running ceremonies for dignitaries with tribal leaders. Very well respected man. He's our head facilitator. Speaks 5 languages as well. So he runs our ceremonial space. And
Okay.
then at the end of all of that,
Wow.
at the end of
That'd
all of
be
that,
phenomenal as well.
yeah,
Just to come for
he's a
that.
wealth of knowledge. Yeah, yeah, it's a beautiful space, and it's a
Yeah.
very consciously created container.
Yeah.
I mean, that people are very well held. We've got helpers that are walking around, and they're experts in what they do. And we're by a little fishing village on a sparsely populated area of the island, um, and it's just a beautiful spot, And then at the end of that 7 days, and through that as well, you can go with myself or my brother, and we can sit down and bring your journal, sit down, we'll have conversations to help ground and get you clear on intention and any messaging and everything like that as well. Because
Yeah.
asking questions will bring things out.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so, so we do that, and then the thing is when you get home. So it's all well and good to have this experience. You've gone and you've done all this work, and you've gone over to Brazil. You've had this heart opening space, and you've gone and experienced all these wonderful things. And then you come home and you got to send fucking emails. And you're
Yeah.
like, and no one gets you.
Yeah.
No one gets you. And you're like,
Yeah.
that can be really disconcerting for people. It's like
Yeah.
they don't know what to do with it. It's really hard to ground, and
Yeah.
people can get very overwhelmed. So that's why part of our baked into the program, even at the most basic level, is touching base with everybody when they get home and being that connection point. Paul and I consider ourselves bridges. So
Yeah.
I've got 1 foot in Brazil and I've got 1 foot in central London with you. You know what I mean? And so you can tell to me about these things and having that open line of communication, but having that formalized as well. And then we've got the community aspect as well. So just to keep people connected, but these were the things that we thought were missing within the space. Now
Yeah.
you can extend that as far as you want. Like I said, we've got like um, 1 month, or it's 6 weeks, 3 months, and 9 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, you can go deeper into the integration and deeper into the work.
Yeah. And I think it's
It just depends on
fundamental.
how
Yeah. I
far you want
think,
to go.
and I think that's a really poignant part because I strongly advocate that as well for support of integration. When you come out of that environment that you've captured everybody in that container, and then you come home to your environment and the fact that that support is there for people to bed in to their environment, like you said. And I think that's a really important part of this and the work you do because so many things, so many people just left, sort of transcended in nothing. And actually,
Well, that's it.
I mean, I've had that experience in my lifetime. I'm sure other
Mm,
people listening and watching have had these experiences where they're just going around in loops and just left in this transcending space of nothingness, where they feel completely out of themselves,
yeah,
because they're having to regulate
disconnected
in an
from everybody.
environment, a different environment. So
That's
it's
it. You
really
think about it this
beautiful
way.
to hear.
It's like you created an environment, your house,
Yeah.
and a social environment through with friends based on a psychological profile that you were before you went and had this experience.
Yeah.
And now you've changed internally. You've had all of these experiences that have changed the way that you view the world, but nobody else in your environment, they know you as something else other than what you are. So what are they going to do? They're not going to understand you. And they're going to be wanting you to be what's familiar to them. And you've got this environment that you created with the level of conscious awareness that you're at that prior to this experience. Now it doesn't match. So you just plonked into this creation of your previous self, and now you feel completely different. Now, if you don't do anything consciously, if you don't have the support to be able to make the shifts around you, that environment will just slowly, you'll just readapt to
Yes.
what that is. And
Yes.
then that experience you had, this is not just with ayahuasca, but it could be with anything. But that
Yeah.
experience that you had, if not integrated, if not acted upon with physical actions
Yeah.
and levels of awareness, so that you
Yeah.
can communicate more intelligently to people and also meet people where they're at. It's yeah, it could just be a really vivid dream that you've had, and it's like, yeah, well, that was an experience, but it doesn't do anything. So yeah,
Yeah. Or
we endeavor to
conversely,
help people.
or conversely, you can
Yeah,
you can sit in a space of a void that actually you're in between worlds of where you were and where you're not quite being or becoming or have reached yet, and you're in this space of a void that actually you're not slipping back and you're not actually going forward. So you're in this
yeah,
sort of fucking horrible space that actually you need
yeah,
that
yeah.
support in.
Yes, absolutely. Have somebody hold your hand, but also somebody who gets you. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? By this point, by the time you get home, you and I have been through so much stuff that you can trust me. I sit with each person. I drink the drink with everybody. You know what I mean? I'm in the Tamascar with you. You know what I mean? I'm on the walk with you. Well, I'm with you every step of the way.
Yeah.
We've developed a pretty deep relationship because the conversations are deep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like it's not just that. It's like you've got somebody in your corner when you get home who is on your team,
Yeah.
trying to help you ground these things, holding your hand as you ground and go, okay, so how do we strategize? How do we create a strategy if that's what we need strategy? Um, how can we, because it's going to bring up different challenges. You know what I mean? You think about the hero, the classic hero journey from Joseph Campbell, you know what I mean? It's returning, it's not just facing the dragon, it's returning home with the treasure.
Yeah.
And then now it's a when you complete the loop, it's a full level of conscious awareness and development. But for every and here's the thing, you won't get a pleasure without a pain.
Yeah, absolutely.
You will not get a one-sided anything. Even if you have all these breakthroughs in any modality, that is they come with new challenges baked into them. Now, again, people get sold on this idea that I go there, I have the drink, and then my problems are solved. No, they're not. Even if you do solve the problem that you came there with, it creates a new problem when you come home because yeah, now you can't fucking talk to people. Now you're going through that transition of actually finding new tribe, now
Yeah.
finding new people that you connect with.
Yeah.
And that can be really challenging,
Yeah.
really tough. Like you said, you're stuck in this. I'm not who I
Well, it's
was.
like a twilight
I'm not
zone.
who I'm moving toward. Yeah, it's like going, I'm stuck in this middle ground now, and I don't quite know where I fit.
Yeah.
So that can be really disconcerting. So yeah, that's why we advise people to stay within the communities in long term because it ensures that we all keep doing the work together and that you have a place
Yeah.
and and you also have somebody in your back pocket, which could be a nice feeling knowing that if you do get overwhelmed and you do have challenges, when you face these challenges, that you have somebody that you can speak to, that you've
Yeah.
developed a trust with, who gets you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just think that's invaluable. So,
So we
but I
could,
don't see too many places doing that because it doesn't scale. That's the thing.
yeah. And also, I mean, we could carry this podcast on for ages, and I'm very aware of this. But, the whole concept of holding people in spaces of um, induced trauma or trauma that comes out, whether you're taking a plant medicine or not, but actually, that whole bullshit societal belief that you've got to fix somebody to do X, whereas taking the radical responsibility for people and holding them in the space and actually integrating them and grounding them in their own new neuro pathways in their brain that they've had to restructure is phenomenal. But also you're doing it as uh um uh not just because you're driven by your own experiences and your own what's happened in your life and how you fundamentally put this into your retreat. But also you're making new ways of being in a different state of being in a retreat space that actually holds people properly.
Yeah. Can I give
And
you a
it,
story that encapsulates this?
yeah,
Can I share a story?
of course.
It's part of it's the inspiration behind the retreat,
Yeah,
but it informed the structure. So that brother that I spoke to, I mentioned earlier with the drug addiction and everything like that.
your
When
brother.
I had yeah, my brother. When I had my first experiences with ayahuasca, it was my third experience, and I was just about to go back to Australia. I'd been in Brazil for 6 months or something like this. I was about to leave and come back, and I had one last experience, and I saw him in the experience. And I felt like I saw all the men in my family. The previous experience, I'd seen all the men in my family. This one, I saw the men, and I felt like I could see his soul, and I could feel it, and I saw him, and it was kind of like I saw this dark cloud and all this thunder hitting him, but I saw this loving face looking down on me, and then all of a sudden, and I had a lot of resentment prior to this for my brother for the drugs and everything like that, for the pain that all of these things had caused and the turmoil it had caused in our family. I loved him, like I wanted to help him, but I resented that part. I resented it strongly, and I was seeing it as a deficiency. I
Yeah.
could and everything like that. And in that moment, boom, all these memories started flooding in, and it was Anjul teaching me how to ride my first bike, teaching me how to climb my first tree. When he got his first car, and me being amazed about how he could save up the money for it. like his discipline in doing that. And when him taking me, I bought this Michael Jordan signed photo when I was a little kid in primary school, and my pocket money was $5 a week. And so I used to go to this basketball shop, and I'd give the man my $5 every week. My brother would take me, and so obviously that's going to take 1,000 years for a kid to pay that off. But yeah, that was my thing, and so
Yeah.
it showed my brother doing that, and I had all these tears coming out, just tears, 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 and I go, wow. Angelo was both. He was a really good big brother, and he showed me he was such a teacher. And I had a recognition that the drugs were not the issue for him. That was the solution to his life.
Yeah.
Life was the problem for him. That was his solution, and
Yeah.
he had chosen that. And my judgment dropped.
Yeah.
Now, when I left that experience, the final messages dropped in, and I was sitting outside the Malacca and I was looking up at the stars, and the medicine was still in my system, but it was just kind of just landing out. And it was just like, you need to show him. You need to tell him what you've seen, because it's all well and good to have this experience, but you need to ground it. And that came in really strong. So I wrote a message. I sent it to my mum. I go, show this to Angelo when he is in a position to hear it, because you don't know what drug he's
Yeah.
on, or
Yeah.
whether, because he had periods where he's not, right? He's
Yeah.
cognizant. So show it to him when he's cognizant. So she does.
Yeah.
I get back to Canberra, and first, straight away, we had a moment. And I told him that I loved him exactly where he was. I told him I loved him with the drugs or without the drugs. It didn't fucking matter to me. And I meant it.
Yeah.
And he felt that. And we had a moment, and he thanked me for it. And from that moment forward, I told him that I loved him. We still had, moments where he triggered me and everything like that. But I love you were the last words that ever came out of my mouth to him every time that I saw him. If I had to take him home with a needle, because he had a needle in his arm, I had to take it out, pick him up, take him home, and say, you can't do that in the house. I love you, and that's it. And that was it. But I could see the perfection of my brother and the role that he played in my family. Now, he died about a month later.
Okay.
And when I found out that he had died, I didn't have grief. I didn't grieve. And the police came and told us accidental suicide. I didn't have, as a result of a large amount of drugs taken, I didn't have grief. I had relief. He was out of his pain.
Yeah.
And when I spoke at his funeral, I didn't cry. I didn't go into sorrow. I felt love in my heart.
Yeah.
I had gratitude, because I had gratitude for my brother as he was
Yeah.
while he was alive through that experience. And he
Yeah.
shared that. He died knowing that his brother loved him. There was no question on it. And I felt it, and he knew it. And what came up from within me was like going, how many people are walking around with all this stuff? If he had died, if I didn't have that experience and we didn't have that connection, he'd have died, and I would have had regret.
Yeah.
And I'd have been judging myself, and I'd have been grieving and then regret and all these different things. Why didn't I do this, that, and the other, and
Yeah.
everything like that? All those years of trying to fix him, I stopped trying to fix him. And I didn't just accept him, I saw him for his role, and I could see the balance of perfection of who he was. It wasn't just a blind acceptance. I accept you even though I wish you're doing something different. I stopped wishing for him to be any different.
Yeah.
That was the kicker. And I was like going, you know what? This experience, what I just experienced, how do I help? How do I serve that to people? That is what I've been wanting to do. How do I serve that to people? And that's why I feel so strongly, and my brother and I feel so strongly about the levels of support, the
Yeah.
levels of
Absolutely.
integration, using the information and grounding it in your physical reality. You know what I mean? Doing something with it. That's what makes the shift. That's what makes the change. And that's what transformed. That was transformative
Yeah.
for me. And I was so grateful for that experience. You know what I mean? So that has what, that was the inspiration for the retreat. That was
And
what we've
also,
been
yeah, and also
thinking about.
you've walked that walk so that you can walk it with others that are going through those really key points in their life because of what you've been through. And that's all part of the evolution of what you're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's healing. That's love.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was love without
Yeah.
condition for a
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to,
There's
you
not
don't
a
have to
lot of
do what I
that.
want you to
The
do. Yeah.
unconditional love of pure acceptance.
No, not acceptance.
No?
Not acceptance. I didn't just accept it. No, no, no. I embraced him as he was. There wasn't a I just accept you for as you are. Because acceptance implies that he's still not doing what I want. I'm just accepting you for it. I'm just accepting that this is the
Okay.
way you are. I'm embracing because I see the benefit of you being exactly as you are. I
Okay.
see how you're serving me being exactly as you are. I see how you're serving my family exactly as you are. Angelo being exactly as it is, it gave me a purpose in my life. That stimulated me to have a drive and a purpose that I did not have in other things because I wanted to understand him. It dropped all of my judgments around people that take drugs.
Yeah.
And so now I can talk intelligently about it, but I can also, I don't have a judgment on anyone who takes them. I wanted to understand. And
Yeah.
that's helped me help other people. You know what I mean? He brought my family closer together when we tried to help him. I saw my parents never give up on him until the day he died. That was a level of commitment and love that I didn't, it's not a question in me. It's, I've seen the display. You know, Angela was a teacher. And we don't have the dynamic that we have in our family if he's different. And I
Yeah.
like the dynamic we have in our family. So instead of just blindly accepting and passively accepting him as he was,
Yeah.
I embraced him and loved him and had appreciation and gratitude for him taking the drugs. And that can sound like deluded to some people and everything like that. But, you know, look at it. He helped
Yeah.
me grow up.
Yeah. And the purpose that you're now providing for others is, you know,
Yeah,
is evident. And just so that people can hear and watch and listen about this and find where David is actually all of your social platforms are going to be part of this podcast so that people can find you
brilliant.
and embrace your retreat with your brother and
Yeah,
brothers actually because it's not we're
yeah,
talking openly. This is a
yeah,
family of brothers.
yeah. And a little sister.
No?
Got my little sister as well.
Yeah. And
She sat with
actually,
us.
yeah, yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And
Yeah.
you can find David on, you know, on all of these platforms that I'm going to put together with a podcast. You can find him and where the retreat is being held, and the space is still available, right?
For this upcoming retreat, we have one more space.
Oh, good.
That's for
One more.
May. But yeah, but we're
Yeah,
spaces are filling up for October, and we're even booking into next year now as
great.
well. So people are starting to approach us. So the spaces are limited. We keep the groups intentionally small.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so it's 8 to 10 people maximum.
Yeah,
So they're very small groups by intention.
yeah,
So spots are limited. So if anybody wants to, if that anything about what I've said appeals to you,
yeah.
yeah, contact us and let's get the ball rolling.
Cool. So the question I'm going to end with, which actually you've revealed so much, David, because you're such a beautiful, open, free-spirited person. To actually reveal something unique about yourself, it sounds really irrelevant now because I think you've kind of touched on so many levels.
I
But is there
mean,
anything that is a bit secret that you haven't revealed?
oh, I don't know if it's a bit secret.
Uh,
I've I've got different elements to my personality. Put it that way. Part of it, I like to say to people, I'm part barefoot nature hippie man who likes to sit under a tree and with his feet in the dirt, but I'm also part meathead who likes to lift heavy things in the gym and listen to loud music and stuff like that. There's an inner fat child in me that just wants to, he's always hungry. I'm a food person. I will eat nonstop. I, there's a kid also inside me. I like to watch cartoons. I can sit there and so people will share, we'll go into these really intense sessions and everything like that. And then I'll be like, all right, well, time to switch my brain off before bed and everything. So then I'll put on like The Simpsons or like just anything. I like cartoons, so I'll put on some cartoons and I'll sit there and watch my cartoons for a little bit just to get out of it and everything like that. So yeah, that or I like watching breakdance videos on on the algorithm. The algorithm's got me. But yeah, there's just and art. I love art and I love art and sport. So yeah, I'm a weird mishmash of all these different things. So if there's anything unique about any of all that, then that's where I land with it, I think.
Yeah, but that makes up
Oh, and
David,
I
doesn't
tell terrible jokes as well.
it?
I'm told every day that my jokes aren't funny. So it's yeah, I tell poorly timed dad humor. It sounds like it constantly. So yeah, I tell a lot of shit jokes. So, and I think they're funny, but like everyone at the table, like girlfriends are habitually saying, me, David, your jokes are not funny. I go, I think they're funny, and they're like, yeah, no, no.
As long as
But
you're laughing, David.
yeah, yeah, I think I'm pretty hilarious. So I don't know what the big deal is, man. But yeah, no, that's just me. So yeah,
Cool. Okay, so I will pop everything here for everybody to find David. It's been an absolute pleasure. We've run
yeah,
so much
likewise.
over. However, it's so invaluable, so invaluable. And just for the record, this is 2025. And, David is and his brother is going into 2026 with his retreats and also one-to-ones that he offers on top of everything else. So it's not just the retreat. So just want to point that out for people that are listening. Such an inspirational person to have as guests. Thank you so much. And I'm
Thank you.
sure,
Thank you for having me.
yeah, and if anybody's got any questions or anything that they want to ask, direct message to the Quantum Time Traveler, but also to David directly, then please do.
Yep.
It's been
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely, absolutely. It has been awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you
No,
for your time, and thank you to
no,
all the
you're
viewers,
welcome.
anyone who stayed on this long and listened to me ramble.
No, no, no.
Yeah,
It's all relative, and it even in this transmission or this transformation could have helped somebody in itself. And that's what
mhm.
the awareness is about and the consciousness that we provide for people that are listening, watching. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Awesome. Until next time, thank you very
Appreciate it.
much.
Okay, thank you.